Hello again. It's the skeletal remains of Mr. Pete, your YouTube shop teacher again. And this is a video all about how to maintain and service your 4-jaw chuck. So let's begin. I have on the bench 3 different 4-jaw, sometimes called independent jaw chucks. So we've got an 8-inch, a 6-inch, and a 4-inch. So we got daddy, mama, and baby chuck. All of these chucks will fit onto Atlas South Bend Logan type lathes with a 1.5 inch by 8 thread. And I believe this is the one I'm going to work on right now because it is the dirtiest and probably needs a little attention. 4-jaw chucks have open screws, as you can see here, so chips and debris and swarf get into there and cause it to bind as you move the chuck jaws back and forth. This chuck was made by Skinner. This is an Atlas chuck. I like the fact that the concentric rings are a little closer together on this one. Matter of fact, they are about at a 2-to-1 ratio. It makes it just a little bit easier to set your work up, at least initially, before you use your dial indicator. Most of my chucks have square holes here for a chuck key like this, but this has hexagon, 1/4 inch. I never did have a key for it. This is just an Allen wrench. It does happen to fit. Not quite enough leverage here with the short handle. I need to make myself a chuck key for this someday. That's probably why you've never seen me use this. I like to use my battery operated drill to speed things up, so you can make your own adapters here. There's a piece of 1/4 inch hexagon taken from an Allen wrench, and I made a slightly longer one that is in the chuck right now. But for your square ones, here's a real quick way to do it. Just square off a piece of rod, and of course there's different sizes, so you can see I made this one from square stock and turned it to round. This one I had round stock and I machined it to square. Your choice. As you know, all 3-jaw chucks have numbered jaws, and you'll see numbers stamped here on the chuck face, and you cannot mix and match. However, you can mix and match on some 4-jaw chucks, although I noticed that this one is numbered 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know why. Maybe they hand fitted it at the factory. This one has no numbers on it, so I'm just going to take them out and clean them and put them back in at random. Run your drill at slow speed. I'm going to take them out. You see why I used a long one here rather than the initial short one that I mistakenly made? Now sometimes you're going to find that there are a lot of chips packed into the thread, so I will clean all of these off camera. I'm going to use a brass wire brush and then very gently rub them on some fine emery cloth, which I will show you. Use your favorite thinner. I like to use brake cleaner to clean them off. Acetone and other kinds of solvents would work just as well. I won't show that because it's kind of messy. Well, I guess I fibbed to you when I said there's no numbers on them, but actually all 4 of them are numbered 26, so that would be the batch number or the chuck number because they probably were hand fitted. But this is not a number, that's a letter. It's an S, probably standing for Skinner. So they've been brushed. They still do not look great, but see how clean they are in the threaded portion. If you have any pieces of chips and swarf jammed in there, use a little pointer to dig those out. This is 500 grit paper, possibly a little too fine, but this is the essence of what I wanted to show you. That cleans it up pretty nicely. So I'll do that to all 4. If that's not taking it off, drop down to a 320, but do not use 100 or some aggressive grit. You will be pouting later in the day. I never had this happen before, but this thing is weeping on me. There's a whole bunch of this on the floor over there. So I backed that off and it's sizzling a little. First time in my life I ever experienced that phenomenon. So that's a wasted can. Okay, on the chuck body itself, I plan on cleaning it up very well with some Scotch-Brite. I probably could have done this on the lathe. I might stick it back on the lathe and polish the periphery, but I don't want to polish this under power because I would cut myself. These are fairly sharp and they will clean up quite nicely, as you will see. And I'll use a brush to clean the slots and a little thinner that I will wipe up off the floor and use to clean the slots. But before I do that, I believe that I'm going to attempt to clean the screws probably by this method. See if it works. Rotating it while I spray it, but I don't want to stick a rag in there because it'll wrap up. Now you certainly could take the whole chuck apart and do a more thorough job, but this is not in that bad of condition that would warrant a complete disassembly, which is a lot more work. If I had a solvent tank, I certainly would put it in the tank and clean it out and then blow it with air pressure, but being a poor man, I'm just using my wire brush to clean the slots and Scotch-Brite and so on to clean this, and then I'm going to spray this real well with solvent and blow it out with compressed air. 320 grit. Scotch-Brite. Okay, it's starting to look real good. Now one other thing that you need to make sure you do, actually you need to do this every time you mount the chuck on your lathe. I'm sure you've made a spider like this out of welding rod over the years, and it'll fit most any thread size. Make sure there are no chips trapped in that thread. Let's talk about lubrication. Now people are going to disagree with me on this, I know, but you can just fill this full of oil, but what will happen is that when you turn your machine on, oil will sling out of there and cover your left shoulder. So I've noticed on the newer chuck that I bought, when I took it apart, it had white grease on it. Well, I'm going to use this shell. Boy, that's a 50-year-old can, isn't it? And I'm going to wipe just a tiny amount of this on the threads, because even this will liquefy and make a mess. So I'll do that to each jaw, and then just a little bit here, and tiny amount on the screws. With a 4-jaw independent, of course you can install the jaws in the regular direction or in this direction, depending on what your application is. So let me run these in. Most of this I will do off camera. And you can run them back and forth a little bit if you want to work that grease in. Well, there we go. I've got a little grease to wipe off in a few spots. Most of that will end up on my shoulder sooner or later. Ready to go. Now I just have 2 more to go, and if anyone watches this video, I may do 3 jaws as well, but that's probably been done in the past. You need to do that to your chucks every so often, especially after you turn cast iron or something that's very invasive and powdery and it gets into all of the threads. If you live in a grass hut, you don't have electricity to charge a DeWalt, get yourself an old speed wrench, and you can see that I have modified the end of that, and it works great even if the chuck is on the machine to fairly rapidly move the jaws in and out. So think about that. Be sure and watch my other videos. I have 1,400 of them, and this is being filmed in September of 2022. 3 days ago, the wonderful A-Bomb, that is Adam Booth, 79, was right here in this shop. He took a few videos and pictures, so watch for that on his channel. Also on my channel, I have a 2-part video where I have a conversation with Adam. So we had a wonderful time with him and Abby. So I'll put some still pictures of that at the end of this video as a preview, and hopefully as a little stimulation for you to watch the other videos when Adam makes his appearance. So keep watching. This is Mr. Pete saying so long for now. But Mr. Pete, how am I going to find those videos of Adam Booth? Well, take a look down in the video description and I'll put some great links down there to those videos.